Hi, I'm Aaron Marcus, and I am so excited about offering this webinar for you. It's the ultimate guide to succeeding in the acting and modeling industry. And what I'm doing here is really putting together in this great checklist and guide everything that you're going to need to know to have success. So here's my contact information. If you need to follow up with me, you'll have a copy of this PowerPoint. So I'm just going to zip through this right now. Instead of going through the topics, let me just get started. So the most important part to having success is getting an effective headshot. Because I can tell you in today's time period, if your headshot doesn't work for you, it doesn't make any difference how great of an actor you are. Or if you're trying to get even commercial modeling work and you start off with just a headshot, if it's not effective, you're not going to get called in for the go-see. And what happens today is that most people get auditions from having their headshot seen on a website. And so there could be thousands of people and thousands of people being submitted. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but easily you can have anywhere between 500 and 1,500 headshots submitted for each role. So your headshot is crucial. So the very first thing you need to think about with a headshot is understand who you are, how you are going to get cast, what types of roles are right for you, and make sure you show that in your headshot. So like, for instance, for me, I'm not the head of a motorcycle gang. I know that surprises a lot of people, but I'm the doctor, I'm the lawyer, I'm the real estate agent, I'm the guy who fixes your computer, I'm the therapist, I'm the high school science teacher. Those are the kinds of roles I know I'm going to be cast in. So I needed to make sure that in my headshot, you see this warm, friendly, intelligent, successful guy. And I'm thinking during my headshot session, and that's what brings out energy through your eyes, and that's what grabs people's attention. Some of the other things you want to be careful of. There is a certain style that some photographers have. It's not right, it's not wrong, but some photographers like to chop off heads. I don't. I like to have my head fully intact in the photo. That's something that you can request. So it's going to be up to you. The other thing too is you want to make sure that your wardrobe is like nice wallpaper. It helps enhance your image, but you don't want people staring at it. So in this particular headshot, I love this kid's face, looking directly into the lens of the camera, which is crucial. Nice, warm, friendly smile. I love his attitude. I know how I would submit him for what kinds of roles, but it's like, what's he doing with a tie on? In a button-down shirt. Did he just come home from a hard day's work and his wife is getting him a martini or something? It doesn't make any sense. So I think it's a really poor choice of wardrobe, but love his face. I like this headshot. One of the things that I also really like is see how a V is created in his wardrobe, just like that. And the reason why I like that is whenever you create a V, it frames your face. It forces people to look right up into your face. So I like that very much. What a couple of little complaints that I do have is never have a logo or a brand name in in any of your headshots. If somebody sees a logo, then that could potentially cut you out of auditioning for a competitor. They might have thought that you did an ad for this company. I also would prefer to see the background just a little bit more blurred out. The steps I think those are steps. It's just a little distracting to me. So make sure your wardrobe fits your image, but nothing stands out. Nobody looks at it and says, love that blouse, love that shirt, love those earrings, love the necklace. That means they're not looking at you. Really like this guy's headshot as well. And once again, I'm being very nitpicky with my critiques, but I think it's really helpful for you to see it. Really like his smile. Personally, I would like to have him a little bit more centered in the shot. I just find there's a lot of open space in here. I'm not crazy about the size of his collar. It's just, it looks too big, but I really like The headshot, I like the V that he forms with his shirt. And I immediately think of this guy looks like he's ex-military, maybe ex-police officer. He's a mentor. He's a teacher. I like the guy. I think it's really good. Okay, let me move on to another headshot. So here's a good example. And I know it's an older one. It's black and white. You always want to do color headshots today. There are some exceptions to the rule, but pretty much everything should be a color headshot. Very nice smile, but I don't believe that he's really smiling, that there's anything behind it. And it kind of looks blank to me. It looks a little empty. His eyes just look dead. That's why in your headshot, you need to be thinking. So for my headshot, because I'm going after that warm, friendly, inviting kind of look, I'm thinking about people who I care about, people who are meaningful to me. And then when I show you my headshot, you'll see that you like this guy. And it's because you feel this warmth. If you go to a headshot session and the photographer says, okay, let me see a nice big smile, and all you do is smile, but you don't know why you're smiling, you're not thinking about what's making you smile, you're going to look dead. That's not going to be a very good headshot for you. Really love this woman's eyes. She just jumps out. Love the shot. Once again, a couple of things. I'm not so crazy about the background. It kind of makes me want to look at it. And I'm thinking, are those windows? Is that all white? I wonder what the space is. Once again, it's taking my eyes off of her. I'm also not 100% thrilled with how her hair is just kind of dangling down. I think I'd rather see it pulled back a little bit more. The other thing too that's really important, and this applies more to women than for guys, you don't want to show a lot of skin. And I'm talking about from a photographic point of view, because when you have a lot of skin, whether you have a sleeveless top on or a lot of skin in your chest area showing, our eyes go to the lightest part of the page. So if there's a lot of skin, our eyes are going to go there. So I would not show a lot of skin in any kind of headshot. Sometimes people will tell you, you've got to show teeth. What's the matter? Are you trying to hide the fact that you only have one tooth in your mouth? Well, the fact is, it depends on your look. It depends on what you're going after. And for this particular headshot, I know the actor, he's a very talented actor. And once again, it's an older headshot, but I really like it and it makes a good point. That's why I'm using it. Barry gets the roles of the bad guy. He's the kidnapper. He's the guy who does evil things. He was really good at that. And so when I look at his headshot, he looks like the cat who ate the canary. I think it's a really powerful headshot. If he had a big open tooth grin, smile, I don't think it would be as effective. So I really like this kind of look. Now, for this one, typically when you're doing a headshot, you don't want your shoulders square to the camera because then it looks more like a yearbook picture. You always want one shoulder slightly closer, head tilted just slightly. However, for this one, there are two things, and I love her look in here. The two things that I would change, though, is she's not looking directly into the lens of the camera. And when you don't look directly into the lens, you seem like you're hiding something a little bit. And it's subtle, but it makes a big difference. The other thing, too, is she has one shoulder so close to the camera, and anything that's closer to the camera just magnifies it. So it makes her shoulder look a lot bigger than it is. So I just wouldn't be that extreme with your pose. So here is one of the headshots that I use, and you'll notice it's very blurred out in the background. There's nothing that grabs your attention. I do create a little V in here that helps frame my face. You can see the warmth in my eyes. I'm thinking about people who are important to me, and there's nothing in the wardrobe that stands out. It enhances my look. So that's what you need to do to put together a great headshot. So the next step, after you've got your headshot, you need a resume. Now, I know for some people, if you're just getting started, you're going to say, well, I haven't done anything. What am I supposed to do? Well, you'd be surprised how much you can put in a resume, even if you haven't done any work. So let me give you some information. One of the things that people don't think about is make sure that your name is up there nice and big, bold, so people can see it very clearly. Make sure you've got contact information. I'm going to tell you about that in just a minute. If you do have a website that you can take people to where you've got more photos, or maybe even have an acting reel or a voiceover reel, you can put that in there. But here's something that I really like to do, and I think it's a really good idea. I like to put my headshot in the upper right-hand corner, whether it's the exact same headshot that you have on the other side of the resume, or maybe if you have two different headshots. And that way, as they are looking at your resume, they can still see your face. And I think that can be really helpful. Some of the basic things, whether you've had any experience or not, you can put some of your information like hair color, eye color, weight, and also your height. And this holds true for everything on your resume. Be honest. Don't lie. Whatever your weight is, put that down, because sometimes that could keep you out of certain roles, and that also could get you auditions for certain roles. And you also never want to be untruthful, because if you show up for an audition, or maybe you get booked directly from your headshot and resume, and you look nothing like your statistics, it's a horrible situation. And those are the kinds of things that can get you released from working with an agent and never getting called back for things in the future, because people won't trust you. If you've had any kind of experiences, whether it's TV or film, theater, put it on your resume. It doesn't make any difference when you did it. If you actually did it, put it there. You don't date it. It doesn't make any difference. I like to put things in 3 columns. And by the way, if you have my book, you can read all about this in the book, and you'll see a picture, a sample, and you can use that as a guideline for you. I find that when I put things in 3 columns, it's really easy to read. And once again, there are different ways that you can put it together. It's not like this is the only way to do it. I just happen to like it this way. If you have things that you've done that aren't related to the industry, whether it's pageant work, whether it's modeling, don't put that in there, because that not only is not the right thing to do for an acting resume, it could also hurt you. People have a tendency to say, oh, that person's a model, they can't act. That person does pageants, they're not actors. So only put information down that deals with acting. The other thing too, if you've never had any acting experiences, sometimes if you have had training, which everybody needs to have, most successful actors, they've all had acting training, and a lot of them still take acting classes. I've been doing this for over 30 years, taken lots of acting classes, and periodically I will take private lessons with people. It's always good to keep things up to date and to continue to work on things. So if you've taken some classes, that can be very helpful. So that way people can see, okay, the person's just getting started. They've taken some acting classes. Maybe if you've taken classes with people that are recognized in your area, that can also be really helpful. And also for the training or the acting classes, make it specific. So I wouldn't put acting class, acting 101, make it specific. Is it acting for the camera? Is it, I'm trying to think some other good things to put in there. Maybe it's improv. Maybe it's teleprompter. Maybe it's acting for film and TV, just something specific so they have a better idea of what you actually have been studying. And the very last thing, and this also could be really helpful to you, even with little to no experience, any special skills. Do you speak a foreign language? Do you realistically, can you really do dialects, other kinds of dialects, and make it specific? Don't just say, Southern. Well, what does that mean? Do you sound like you're from Texas? Do you sound like you're from Louisiana? Do you sound like you're from Mississippi? Those are all Southern, but they're different. So make it just like with, don't say British accent. Well, what does that mean? Do you sound like you're from Liverpool or London? Very different kinds of dialects. So make it very specific. I do, as you probably know, a lot of online private mentoring, which allows me to work with people throughout the world. I was working with somebody from Australia, and she told me that she could contort her body and fit into a suitcase. And I thought, wow, that's a pretty amazing skill. I said, you should lead with that one. Because sometimes in a TV commercial, or maybe even a film, maybe they need you to do something really unusual with your body. So let people know about that. There's another woman who I worked with, and she's a very, very attractive woman, and she's been boxing for many years. And I thought, lead with that. I mean, who would think that you can really box? So anyhow, think outside the box, no pun intended there. And, whether you play an instrument, whether you speak a foreign language, whether you do martial arts, look, you've got to be honest with that as well. If you are, 50 years old and you took, one semester of French, 40 years ago, no, I wouldn't list that. But, if you sound like, if you're fluent and you sound like you're from France, put it in there. Anything that you can, here's the way to view it. Anything that can help a casting director find you, put it in there. So just imagine if a casting director is looking for somebody who can draw caricatures on the sidewalk for a scene, someone who can juggle. If you can do those kinds of things, put it in there. That's how you create a great resume. There are many ways of attaching the resume. And once again, you can read about those things in my book too. What I'd like to do is staple all four corners. I know it will stay there. Make sure your resume is 8 by 10, the same size as your headshot, and not have it sticking out over the end without it being cut down to an 8 by 10 size. This is the one thing that I told you I was going to mention to you. If you feel like you do not want to give out your personal home number or cell phone number to the world, because you don't know who's going to get their hands on your headshot and resume. You might go to a very legitimate casting, you drop off your headshot. When they're done, maybe they'll throw it away. And I have heard of cases where there are some very weird people that will go through trash cans of agents, casting directors, and managers. They find headshots, they look at somebody and say, oh, that's an attractive person. And then all of a sudden they have your personal phone number. And by the way, never put your home address on a resume, never put a social security number on a resume. And all of a sudden they've got your phone number. So something you can do is if you go, it's called a Google Voice number. It's really cool. It's free. Just go to google.com/voice. Fill out some information about like what area you live in. You will get a choice of a number of different area code and phone numbers for that area. You can pick and choose one and use that as your, acting or modeling phone number. And what's really cool is you can program it to forward any phone call that goes to your Google Voice number to your home phone or your cell phone number. And that way your personal number isn't given out to the world. And when you get a phone call that came from a Google Voice number, your cell phone will ring differently. And you know that it's going to be a business call. And if you don't answer it and they leave a message, you will get a text message. So anyhow, that's a really neat thing to do. And it also might be helpful if you have any concerns about giving out your personal information to the world. Okay, now let's jump on to commercial photos. How to create commercial photos that can get you work. Quite often when people go to a commercial photographer or any kind of photographer because they want to create some commercial shots or trying to get commercial modeling work, typically what people do is, if they want to get a business, they want to get a business look. So they'll put on a suit, maybe hold a cell phone in their hand, smile to the camera, and that's it. Change clothes. Now you're going to do another shot, maybe a relationship shot where you're holding hands with, your partner, your wife, your spouse, whoever they are. Basically, these are just kind of generic shots. You want to do something a little bit different. So let me just show you a couple of commercial modeling ads in case you're not super familiar with it. These are not fashion. These are commercial ads where they hire all different kinds of people, beautiful people, unattractive people, people with great bodies, people who are out of shape, infants, people in their 90s. It's really cool. What I really love about it is it gives me an opportunity to use my acting skills. And so like this is a great example. Normally, when you're putting together some commercial shots, everybody wants to look handsome or beautiful. Well, there's a tremendous amount of work for pharmaceutical ads. So maybe if you're going to create 4 shots for a composite sheet, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, or just for your portfolio, for your website, your agent's website, seriously consider 1 shot that is considered a pharmaceutical one, where you look sick, because you see these ads year round. It could be hay fever, it could be allergies, could be cough, colds, flu, maybe you were injured, anti-inflammatories, stomach issues. Do one, and that way, if you do have a really attractive and beautiful look, you can show this wide range of a shot where you look great, a shot you look miserable. That is the greatest way to sell yourself, by being able to show a wide range. Once again, here's another great example. Normally you don't look at me and think of a rock grunge guitarist, but the photographer who had worked with me convinced the people from the ad agency that when Molson Beer needed a rock grunge guitarist, I was the guy, because he knew that I could create the right kinds of emotions with the right wig, makeup. I could get the shot done. And by the way, if you ever have to do a shot where you are sweating, whether it's an exercise shot or something like this where you're, playing in a band and screaming and stuff, just get somebody to either spray you with warm water and it will look like perspiration, or if it's an exercise shot, you can actually literally just run around a little bit and perspire. And that's a great way of doing it. Just another kind of commercial ad that I've done, a very different kind of look. It's another kind of look. And you can see, I look different from shot to shot. So one thing I just wanted to mention this very quickly. There are hand models, foot models, leg models, teeth models, nose models, eye models, hair models, leg models. I mean, they're all different kinds of models. So this was a hand modeling job that I did. And I've done a few hand modeling jobs. I even did one as a TV commercial for a restaurant. And that's something you might want to consider if you have good hands or a good body part. So here's the trick. Instead of doing what most people do and spend a lot of money and have these generic photos taken, make your shots look like an ad. That is the best way to grab people's attention. Show them that you can do a wide range of expressions and emotions. It makes you look like a more experienced model. And let me show you how you can do that. So one of the things you can do to get ideas, you don't have to create these ideas on your own. Go through magazines, go through newspaper ads. So go to either a bookstore or a library, grab magazines that you could imagine yourself being in, and find an ad that you could do. It's in your category. You don't have to look like the model, but get ideas, borrow ideas from people who have spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars putting an ad together. They'll show you the expression, sometimes the wardrobe, sometimes the background, location, the props, what kind of items do you want to add in there. Once again, never use logos or brand names. But what you need to do is be able to create a shot that looks like an ad for a specific company or product or organization without having any headlines, without having any copy, which are the words in the ad, and without any products or logos in there. So here's an interesting one. It happens to be for Valentine's Day. It's with Hallmark cards, but it's a really interesting and cute kind of shot. If you are a mom, or I guess you could be a dad as well for this one, but what you want to do is present yourself so people will think of you as being the business person and the mom. Sometimes you can combine both of those ideas, which is exactly what happens in this ad. I think this is a wonderful ad. I would cast this woman as a businesswoman and a mom in a heartbeat because she looks very believable in both of those categories. The child is the prop. The other child in the background is the prop. The bouncy ball is the prop. Some of the pictures, those are all props. So to be able to pull something like this off, if you wanted to combine it, you have to have at least one child. You have to have a location that looks like a daycare center. And that's exactly what I would be thinking this could be an ad for. Some kind of daycare center, or maybe it's a product that makes your business more efficient so you can spend more time with your family. That's a great idea for a potential ad. Love this idea. I think that the little girl could be a little bit more believable if she were really feeling sick, but I really like the idea and the concept. Certainly, if you are the mom in this shot, then you would want to reverse things and have the camera showing your expression more so than the little girl. But it's a great idea. Love this shot as well. Forget about the logo, forget about the name brand in there, the product. Just look at the picture. You look at that and you immediately know what's going on. You know this is some kind of pharmaceutical ad. This guy has an upset stomach, and the prop, it's a greasy plate. And I think it's fantastic. So these are ways that you can get ideas, and then you want to practice getting those kinds of expressions and emotions. And if you go, actually, let me just show you really quickly what I always do to help get those kinds of emotions. I think of a real experience in my life that will give me the emotions that are needed. I will say a word or two that helps bring back that experience, and I will do this looking slightly off camera. I'll say a word or two to myself that brings back the experience of feeling sick or being excited. Then I look up into the camera. That's how I do it. And that's a great way to practice getting the right emotions that you need. You can do this practice just with have somebody take a cell phone and look away. So if you need something where, you know, your stomach is really hurting you, think of a time period where your stomach was really upset, say a word or two, you know, I'm going to say it out loud, you know, oh, I feel horrible. But you might even say it softer than that to yourself. Or if you need to, if the photographer says, I don't want to hear anything, you can do an internal monologue where you think the words to yourself. Oh, I feel so sick. Then you look up into the camera. That is how you're able to create these things. So practice it. You know, maybe do 5, 8, 9, 10 different shots, you know, with trying to hit this one expression using the keywords, and then, you know, look at your cell phone. And if it's believable and you really look sick and you feel miserable and your stomach is hurting you, you've got it. And now you're ready to do the photo shoot. Then you just want to figure out, okay, what wardrobe is right? Do I need any props? What's the location? That's a great way to get these shots put together. Here's just another example. And once again, you're not going to have, you know, the headlines, you're not going to have the copy, you're not going to have the product, but this could be an ad for a lot of different things. You know, it could be for roadside service, maybe it's a tire company, maybe it's a body shop, who knows? But anyhow, this is a great idea. You don't have to flatten your tire to make the shot work. You can simply lift up the hood and you're concerned because you're going to be late to a meeting or this is frustrating. So go through ads through magazines, newspapers. Another great idea. I'd buy this woman in a second as a doctor. Now, there is one other place that you can go to, and it's called stock photography. I don't want to get into stock photography right now just because I've done workshops just on stock photography, don't have time. But basically, just so you know, a stock shot is a generic photo that a stock photographer will shoot. Typically, will hire a model at a much, much, much lower rate to do the shot, and then they try to rent it out to many, many different companies. I don't do stock photography for a few reasons. One is because I want to know exactly where my image is going to be used, just to make sure I'm comfortable with that. With a stock shot, you will have no idea. I also want to know every ad that I've done so that if I'm ever asked, hey, have you ever done any ads that would be a competitor to melanoma? Well, I know what ads I've done. I can say yes or no to that. When you do a stock shot, you have no idea. So if you say, well, to the best of my knowledge, no, I haven't done anything for any kind of ads pertaining to melanoma. Well, if you get hired and you do another ad and all of a sudden they see you on the face of a competitor's brochure for melanoma, there are a lot of issues. So I don't do stock photography, but I wanted to mention this to you because this is another great way of getting ideas for your next test shot to create some commercial shots. So here are a few different companies. I'm just going to zip through this because once again, you're going to have a copy of this later. You can go through it on your own. but you can go to a lot of different stock photography websites, and you can do a search for a specific type that you're looking for. Maybe a teacher, maybe a student having problems, maybe someone feeling sick, maybe exercise, maybe martial arts, and you'll see tons and tons and tons of stock shots. If you see one that looks like an ad without any words, without any copy, without any products, then maybe you can consider borrowing some of those ideas for your test shot and practice getting those looks. So let me just show you really quickly a couple of test shots that I did many years ago that actually look like ads. At that time period in my life, I wanted to be cast as a dad and a business guy. So I set up the shot, brought in some models. Actually, that was my son and daughter, not my wife. And I was thinking this could be an ad for life insurance for the times you aren't going to be there. Maybe big brothers and big sisters. And it actually started to get me more work as a business guy and as a dad. So it was a really effective shot for me. Here's another one that's also actually this one's even older, where I wanted to get cast as the young dad. So what I always used to do is I would create the shot, bang people over the head with it. I mean, now I'm fortunate because I can use actual ads. But at that time period, I didn't have them. So I created a shot where I was the young dad. And I was thinking this could be for, 529 plans. Start setting aside money for college education. Or maybe it's a reading program for kids. And all of a sudden, and it's not a coincidence, when people would see this shot on my composite sheet, they would go, oh yeah, he's the young dad. I see it. It makes sense. So I like to bang people over the head with the look so that they know I can play that role. Okay, let me show you a really important document. It's called a model release form, and you can see the entire form on page 74 in my book. It's a legal document, so if you are a minor, you need an adult to sign this. It's a contract, and basically what it says in a lot of legal mumbo jumbo is that you are giving the photographer permission to use your image for any purpose or through any media, and they can't. Either you or your agent negotiated a fee based on its usage, meaning is it being used in a newspaper, in a magazine, in a brochure, in which case either you'll get paid an hourly fee or a day rate for the job. If it's something called a high exposure format, those are billboards, posters on the sides of buses, on the internet, on a package, then you should get a bonus, because when you are in a high exposure format, typically you're not going to get hired by any competitor in the area. So if you are up on a bank, one specific bank in your state, and you're on billboards all throughout the state for this bank, no other bank's going to hire you. That's why for being in a high exposure format, you should get a bonus. Or you could also get overexposed in a market, in which case it could be an ad for another, for a local restaurant, but the photographer might say, you know what, I've seen them all over the place on that bank ad. Let's find a fresh face. So if you do what I can guarantee you almost every model on the set does and signs the model release form as is, you're giving them permission to use your image through any media and for any purpose, and they can't. So what you want to do is when you find these words that I put in blue here in the book, it's in bold, scratch them out, write in there specifically how the ad should be used. That's one of the pieces of information that you need to have before going to a set. And once again, in the book, I've got a whole list for you. But one of the pieces of information is what's the usage. So if you know that this is going to be used in a magazine, you scratch those words out and you write in there specifically, for magazine only, for newspaper only, for direct mail only. You initial it, then you sign it at the bottom. That is how you protect yourself. You're also protecting your agent, because you could lose thousands and thousands of dollars if you don't make that change, and all of a sudden the company decides, hey, I really love this ad, I want to use it on the company's website. And if you didn't make the changes, you just gave it away. Just really quickly, if for any reason the photographer has a problem with you making a change, which has only happened to me a couple of times in my life, then what you do is just blame it on your agent. Just say, listen, just please call my agent. My agent said she would kill me if I sign this as is. Let my agent handle it. You don't want to get involved with this. This is why your agent is getting a 20% commission fee. Let them take care of it. Hopefully the agent will battle and say, yeah, of course, this is what we negotiated. It's going to run in a magazine. That's what should be placed in there. I can tell you that sometimes I don't like it. I understand it though. Sometimes an agent might think, you know what, I get a lot of work from this photographer. I don't want to ruffle any feathers. Look, just sign it as is. Don't make changes. I think we'll be okay. And that way they can continue to get a lot of work from the photographer. I would probably go along with that from the agent. Once again, I'm not happy about it, but I do pick and choose my battles with agents very carefully, and I'd probably let that one go. Okay, so creating an eye-catching composite sheet. I can tell you that sometimes agents will say, you don't need composite sheets anymore. Everything is done electronically. Well, things are done electronically today, and I agree with that. But sometimes when you go to a go-see, it could be helpful to be able to hand in a composite sheet. Sometimes they say, no, we don't need one. Sometimes they will take one. The other way that you could use a composite sheet is if you are marketing yourself, which we're going to talk about later, to photographers or people at ad agencies. You're not going to just send an attachment of 3 or 4 photos. Nobody's going to open that up. But you can send a hard copy, an actual composite sheet, to people at ad agencies, to photographers, or whoever you're trying to market yourself to through the US mail. And that way they can see your photos. So anyhow, look, you don't have to print thousands, but it might be a good idea to print at least 25 of them, so you have them. And you always want to bring a couple to every go-see that you attend. So these are certain styles. You can set it up any way that you want, just so you can see everything at once. This is actually the front. This is the back. This is a shot that I really love. This woman looks like a teacher. She's selling herself as a teacher. I'd buy her as a teacher. That's a shot that maybe would be appropriate for you. Once again, do you have access to a classroom? If not, but you still think that you could be a teacher, maybe you could be a tutor and you're sitting in someone's home, at a desk. This shot I really love. As a matter of fact, I love this one so much that was my inspiration for my baseball test shot. I thought it was a really good one. Here's one, and typically people do have headshots on the front, and then they have, maybe 3 or 4 photos on the back. You can set it up any way that you want, but it's a really nice composite sheet. Okay, so next step, after you are ready to put together these photos, you have to find a photographer. And there are many different ways that you can do that. There's an organization, ASMP.org, it's American Society of Media Photographers, and there are over 5,000 members. Maybe you can find one of their members in your area. Now, some of them, they're commercial photographers. They're not going to do a shot without, charging a lot of money. But you might want to test some people out. There are also some photographers who won't be good to contact, who might be members of ASMP. Maybe they only shoot year-end reports for corporations. Maybe they only do stock photography. Maybe they only do tabletop photography. They shoot products. They shoot items for catalogs. But you also might be able to find some assistant photographers. And these are people who are trying to build up a business, and they might be great people to contact. You can also go to meetup.com. Maybe they have a photographers meetup session in your area, and you can meet different photographers. You can contact local agents, see if they have any suggestions, and I would get a number of names of people before you actually hire them. There's a really good website, Stage 32. You can find all different kinds of people there, including photographers. And there's a printing company. It's Reproductions. They're based in New York. They print headshots. But on their homepage, they have photographers, I'm sure, who spend a pretty good amount of money and take out ads and show their work. And you can click on different links. You can find that's mainly going to be for the New York and LA market, but you can also get some interesting ideas for headshots if you go view some of those websites. Okay, so I would say that once you've got some ideas, even maybe before you print out a bunch of headshots, but you've got some photos, then you want to find an agent. And agents typically need to see some kind of photo before you meet with them. So how are you going to find an agent? Well, one way is you can go to my website, howtoactamodel.com. Here's the specific link. and you will find over 400 agents there. You will find agents from every state in the United States. You'll also find some managers, you'll find some casting directors, you'll find some industry people from outside the United States as well, but the majority of them are in the States. And I make it really clear, I'm not recommending any of these agents. I have checked out every single website. I spend a tremendous amount of time. I'm always updating it. And I believe that everybody there is a real agent and a legitimate agent. But you want to check them out and, set up an appointment, talk with them, and make sure this is somebody that you would be interested in working with. And always keep in mind, agents work for you. And so if you find an agent and for some reason, you're not 100% comfortable, you're not believing them, there's some things that you're not quite trusting, move on. Find somebody that you do want to work with. Something else you can do to find agents, you can go to the union office, sagaftra.org. And even if you're not a union member, you can find a listing there of local agents in that particular area. See if that area is near you. And you'll get a list. They're called signatory agents, agents who sign contracts with the union. They've agreed to abide by union rules. Some of them only represent union talent. So if you're not a union actor, that might be a problem. But a lot of those agencies, especially outside of New York and LA, also have commercial modeling divisions, in which case there is no union jurisdiction and you can work with anybody. Okay, marketing yourself. So look, it's always best to have an agent. It's always best to have an agent submit you. They're going to know about more jobs in the area than you. They can negotiate better. They can make sure the jobs are legitimate. But even if you have an agent, I think it's really helpful to market yourself and try to get work on your own. Even if you have an exclusive contract with your agent that stipulates anything that you book, you have to send through your agent. That's fine. I've been in situations where I've done all the work and I still send it through an agent, even if I didn't have to. And I'm giving up a percentage, but it's well worth it to me. And I'll tell you why. There are a couple of reasons. One is when you book a job and you send it through an agent, you are sending a very clear message to that agent that you are marketable, that you are booking jobs, that you are making money for the agent. That will put you higher up on their list so that when another project comes up, they're going to think, well, who are the people who book jobs? I'm going to submit them first. So it makes sense to me. The other thing too is when you are sending things through an agent, the agent can negotiate for you. The agent's going to know much better than you, how much should you actually be getting from a commercial modeling job if they want to use you on posters throughout your city? Probably not going to have a clue. You might not even be sure what your hourly rate should be. Or if you are in a high exposure format, if you are going to be up on billboards throughout your state or in multiple states, what is a legitimate fee? What's a comparable fee? What should you be getting paid? So for a couple of those reasons, I think it's a really good idea to send things through an agent. So for marketing yourself, there are a number of different big websites that you can use. You might be familiar with some of these, maybe some you're not. Places like Actors Access, Backstage, 800 Casting, Casting Networks, there's Mandy.com, but there are also places you might not be familiar with. There's Facebook.com, it's CN Actors. You can also go to Film Commission offices, this one down here. And you might find on the Film Commission office in your state, sometimes they will post information about a film coming to your area and who's doing, maybe it's just extras casting, or maybe there's a TV show that's coming to your area. And that's a great way of getting information. If you are an athlete, and I'm not saying you have to be a professional athlete, but you're really good and you're skilled, and it could be anything from badminton to football to basketball, baseball, soccer, lacrosse, swimming. There's a company, it's called Game Changing Films, and that's what they do. They hire athletes for TV shows, for films, for TV commercials. Go to their website and you might find that you could get work as an athlete. Once again, either maybe it's just extra work, but I know people who travel with this company wherever they are shooting projects. And they might work on a project for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 months. Maybe you are part of the football team. And every time, they're shooting a football scene, you're in there. There's also acx.com if you're interested in doing voiceover work, reading books. This is an Amazon website, and you can check it out and see what qualifications you need to have in order to work with them. There are also some lists that you can get on, listservs that you can get on, and so I've listed them here. And I've broken it down to some cities, also some states. There's one here also, it's Dragona Connects. It's a website that you can be on. But you can also be on their listserv, and that's covering mostly the Maryland, DC, Virginia market. I mean, they do go outside that area. It's a great one for auditions, for jobs, for classes, for workshops, webinars. It's a really helpful one. And you can see here, there are some for Massachusetts, New England, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania. I've got some for Texas, Virginia in here. Another way to market yourself is to go directly to advertising agencies. And one of the ways that you can find ad agencies, certainly one is just going to your local chamber of commerce and just asking them, do they have a list of advertising agencies in your area? And I'm sure you can get a list that way. Here are some other ways of finding ad agencies. There's a really good organization. It's an association for ad agencies. It's AAAA.org, American Association of Advertising Agencies. There's also another really good website. It's American Ad Agencies. And what you want to do is find any ad agencies that are in your area and find out who the art and creative directors are. They're the ones who sometimes make final decisions as to which actor gets hired for a TV spot, radio spot, or commercial modeling ad. So send a cover letter, send a hard copy of a headshot. If that's all you have, that's how I got started, just a headshot. And I was able to get both acting and commercial modeling work with my headshot. But if you do have a comp card, send that as well if you're interested in commercial modeling work. And once again, you can borrow the cover letter that I have in my book, How to Become a Successful Actor and Model, and send that along. Just send it to the art and creative directors at ad agencies. Another way of trying to get some work is doing promotional work. And there's a whole workshop that I've done just on interesting kinds of jobs, but I just wanted to mention this one really quickly. Here are a couple of big national companies, and they hire actors, they hire models to work at events, and it could be anything from handing out information to actually giving talks and presenting information about the company. Contracts. This is something you need to take very seriously. Look, it's always a great situation that you're in when you are given an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. I have signed NDAs just for an audition. I remember once doing a home audition, and I had to have my reader sign an NDA because they were very, very concerned about information being given out. So take these contracts very seriously. Basically, what it's saying is you can't talk about the project. You can't even talk about that you're auditioning for the project. They might not want people to know that they are shooting this particular film. Certainly, you can't give out any information about the plots, what's going on, your character, any other kind of information that you learned. So take it seriously if you get an NDA. The other thing too is at some point, and this is going to be down the road a bit, you do want to create an acting reel if you're interested in acting work, or a voiceover reel if you want to get voiceover work. And I know one of the problems that some people mentioned to me is they said, look, I haven't done anything. How could I possibly put together an acting reel? Well, there are some things that you can do. So let me first give you some general information, and then I'll tell you specifically how you can make some of that happen. So typically an acting reel or a voice reel, you want it to be 1 minute long. People aren't going to listen or watch that much longer. You want short clips in there. You want to show different things. If you have done both TV commercials, maybe TV and film, then separate them and have one just for TV and film, one for commercials. And what some people do who are very experienced, they might have a separate one. Maybe it's for animation. They do, character voices. Maybe they do political spots and they separate it that much. But once again, that's really far down the road. If you have not done any work and you are really wanting to put together an acting reel, then one of the best things that you could try to do is go to a local college or university and speak to the person who's teaching a film class, the kind of film class where students have to shoot films for the class, not like a history of film kind of class. And then talk to the instructor and say, look, you're interested in auditioning for a student film. You can bring in your headshot and resume. And if you are comfortable with the with the film itself, then see if you can get cast. And of course, you're not going to get paid anything, but that's all right, because what you will be able to do is build up your resume. And I wouldn't put student film on the resume. I would just put, the name of the film, your character, and the name of the director, or if they have a production company, you can put that. And if you can find 15 seconds, 20 seconds from that particular project that you feel really shows off your acting skills, now you can start an acting reel. That's a great way to get started with it. There are companies, if you do have the actual footage, there are companies that will create that for you. And here's a listing of 3 different companies that you can go to, check them out, see if you think that they are right for you. If you're going to be doing a voiceover reel, then maybe you can find some copy that works for you. And you want it to really sound like a commercial. Look, don't do something, it's a very well-known one, because then, people are going to compare you to whoever did it, and they're going to recognize it, and they're going to know that you never did it. So maybe you could even write some of your own copy. If you're really good at writing it, you want to make sure that people aren't possibly enjoying your voice, but thinking, oh man, this stuff just sounds weird, doesn't make any sense. So make sure it's really good copy. So how do you get experience? One, certainly try to do local theater. That's a great way to get experience. And just keep in mind, though, if you do get on stage, your acting on stage is going to be very different than acting in front of a camera. That would be a great opportunity to start taking some classes where you can learn how to act for the camera. Once again, it's much smaller. Every little movement that is made in your face is blown up tremendously if it's on a film screen. So just make sure that you learn how to make that transition. Like I said before, doing college films, student films, those are great ways of getting experience. Even if the film is not very good, it will give you an opportunity to review it and think about what things worked, what things you would want to change. Once again, find a meetup group of filmmakers in your area. And that's another way of just trying to find out what films are being shot and see if you can get cast in them. And if you are a skilled writer, maybe you can create your own project. Matt Damon did it. Good Will Hunting. So there are, a number of people, Sylvester Stallone, he wrote his own project. It's not easy, but you know what? Sometimes, it gives you an opportunity if you write for you, because you know what you excel at, you know what you're really good at, then you can emphasize that in the project. And then maybe you can get some students who are interested in filmmaking who would want to shoot your project. And once again, that's another way of building up your resume, building up your experience in front of a camera, and allowing you to help build up your acting reel. Shooting auditions from home, it's crucial that everybody learns how to do that. There are some markets in the United States where typically they still want you to show up in person, but there are times where they haven't been able to find the right person, even in markets like New York and LA, and they open it up to the world. But there are other smaller markets where a lot of people audition online and they upload it and send it in. I shoot auditions from home pretty much every week. And so it's crucial you learn how to do that. I do have a video on howtoactandmodel.com. Just go to the store page and you'll find it, devoted strictly just to how to shoot an audition from home. But let me give you some basic ideas. You need to have a clean background. I have a screen that I use. If you don't have a screen, have a clean wall, something that's either white, off-white. You don't want pictures in the background. Having said that, now I'm looking at some pictures that you can see there, but I crop all of that out so you don't see any of those other photos. But behind you, you cannot have anything. You don't want patterned wallpaper or anything like that. You want to make sure there are no shadows. And once again, here I'm saying all this and you see shadows on the screen, but when the lights are on, it takes all the shadows away. So I have actually right now, I have a light that is connected to my screen, which is a backlight, and that helps take care of any of those kinds of shadows. I also have lights on either side of my face, so it makes my face nice and clean. My eyes really pop out. You can see the coloring in my eyes. Everything is sharp. Nothing is distracting. And look, you can, I don't recommend using a phone. I know some people have, some casting directors are not crazy about that, but you can buy an inexpensive camera. I actually use a laptop. I've got a Mac laptop. The camera is great. And that's how I shoot all of my auditions. So what you want to do is buy some lights and also get some bulbs that don't get hot. There are special lights that you can use. Go to a camera store. Tell them you're interested in shooting auditions from home. What kind of lights do they recommend? And that way you can find out very specifically what you need. And then you need to play around with it and set up the lights in different areas, shoot, something for, 20 seconds to make sure everything looks good. You might have to move things. If you can't permanently leave the lights in the right, in the same position, maybe you can mark it. Maybe put a little piece of tape someplace. So that way, when you put it away and you need to use it again, you can go right back to the same spot. You need to make sure that your voice is heard very clearly. Once again, for my Mac, the microphone is great. I used to use a lavalier mic that I would just attach to my shirt when I was using a regular camera, and it's okay that they see it. It's an audition, and that's fine. And then you just need to learn how to do basic editing. With the Mac, I use iMovie, but if you have a PC, there's iSkysoft, and it's an inexpensive program you can purchase, and it allows you to do basic editing so that you can cut out the beginning, you can cut out the end, you can shrink the size if you need. And then you just need a way of uploading a large file. I use, it's called WeTransfer. It's a free program, or Mail Big File. I believe that's the name of it. And that will also allow you to upload a very large file. You can't send it as an attachment in an email. It'll be way too big. And so anyhow, that's what you need to be able to play with, but make sure you learn how to shoot auditions from home. Okay, so just to wind things up here, certainly you want to continue or begin taking acting classes. Make sure you learn how to work in front of a camera. There's analyzing scripts, preparing for auditions. Just make sure you continue with that. And as far as what you need to be doing, create an effective headshot, commercial photos that make you stand out. Find a photographer who can take these shots, somebody that you are comfortable working with. Make sure you look at their work to see that you like their work as well. Find an agent. Find somebody that can submit you for projects. Begin marketing yourself so you can try to get work on your own, even if you do send it through an agent, or maybe you can just book it on your own. And certainly practice shooting auditions from home. It's really important that you do that. Anyhow, that's what I wanted to share with you. This was great. If you have any questions at all, you can always get to me at howtoactandmodel.com. And don't forget, I set aside 5 days every month to work with people privately online. I've got a great mentoring program that I will personally fit for you. So instead of doing things by trial and error and spending a lot of money unnecessarily, let me work with you. I can help guide you and pinpoint exactly what you need to be working on so that you can have the success that you desire. And once again, just go to howtoactandmodel.com, look at the mentoring tab, click on it, and pick the program, the mentoring program that works best for you. We'll set up a date, times, and we will make this happen. I'm Aaron Marcus. This was a lot of fun. Can't wait to shoot another video next month and share it with you. See ya.